Okay, let us get started here for our next session. We are going to hear more about the impact of geospatial search and analysis in transportation. For this session, we will hear from Chris Lambert from the Kentucky Transportation Cabinet. Chris, throwing it over to you. I think you're on mute, my friend.
There we go. Thank you, appreciate it. Yeah, I was clicking the button and nothing was happening. Yeah, I'm Chris Lambert. I'm actually with the Kentucky Transportation Cabinet, as he said, in the Intelligent Transportation Systems area. And we started working with big data about 6 years ago. So I'm going to cover some of the technologies that we use there and specifically how search has aided our GIS program and our ability to analyze data. So in 2014, things kind of came to a head. In 2012 and 13, Kentucky, our winter season is 26 weeks long, and we had 44 call-outs. We had 44 statewide events within 26 weeks. So we were essentially applying salt every few days. And then in 2013 and 14, that particular winter, we had some very heavy snowfalls that cost a lot of money. So we didn't have as many snowfalls, but the ones that we had were more severe. Both of those winters back to back cost about $70 million per year, and that's up from an average of about $45 million. So there was a financial incentive for the cabinet to do better and try to develop some type of a real-time system for monitoring and operational performance measuring. And then also in 2014, we started the Ways Connected Citizen program. So we have this brand new set of data that's crowdsourced with a lot of input from our motorists across our roadway network. And a lot of that is description type information. And then we also had this requirement that we are required by law to produce real-time information, 10 minutes inside metropolitan area, 20 minutes outside metropolitan area. That's that Title 23. And that included road closure information, weather observations. There's like 4 categories of information that we were required to reproduce or to process and publish in a timely manner. So we knew we wanted something GIS related though, right? So all this stuff is spatial, whether it's snow and ice operations or snowplow data or road closure information. We knew we had a really great and mature GIS program at the Kentucky Transportation Cabinet. We wanted to leverage that, but it was a matter of producing real-time information, also being able to analyze that data and make it available to users. So some of the stuff that some of the data that we looked at, these are some of our data sources, actually it's the majority of them, I guess, that we started to kind of implement or aggregate and process against our linear referencing system. We've got here speed data. We've got those Waze reports. We've got icons for work zone monitoring. We've got this really great, Kentucky Messinet weather data. We've got all this, we've got access to a lot of data, but how we process that and make it available to users is a different story. And we do right now we're processing about 125 million records per week. We've got 7 billion records in hot storage. That's what we do per year. And, some of our numbers are there at the bottom. But then we also had a lot of use cases. We had to kind of start thinking, as most GIS professionals do, we had to start thinking outside the box as far as, we don't want to just develop a single system for a single use case. How do we start supporting use cases throughout the cabinet? And as people started to become aware of our capabilities with our new system, which I'll cover in a second, more and more of these use cases came out of the woodwork, and people started asking about our system. Hey, that data you're processing, we'd like to combine these 2 or 3 different data sources together for this use case. And someone else would come to us and say, no, we don't really want those, we want these. And that's a normal GIS process with layering data, but what we do with search is a little bit different. So these are some of the use cases that came about throughout the years. And the ones with asterisks on them, those are ones that are currently under development. And then, so what kind of architecture do we use? And this is really where we get into big data. And I do a lot of presentations about big data as well, but it's really about GIS and big data with GIS component. We treat all data the same, whether it comes from an external partner or an internal existing database, et cetera. We pull raw data. So we have a data lake concept and just for raw data storage. But then this red pipeline down the middle, that real-time processing with Kafka and Spark, what we're doing there is we're processing all of our data against our linear referencing system. So we take all this really great, rich GPS-based data, but then we match it against our linear referencing system so that humans and other folks can understand this, create dashboards, perform analysis, and really kind of help remove the barriers for our engineering and other staff who already have these more traditional methods of analyzing data. Of course, we all joke about the spreadsheets and things, but it really kind of adds field level metadata to each and every record that we receive, regardless of what that source is from. And then what we do is we use ArcGIS Online. It's kind of the front end dashboard or the front end GUI for all of our data. And then we use Kibana for more of a deep dive. And Kibana is powered by Elasticsearch. But this is more of a business intelligence type web-based tool. And so we link these two things together. We start out with the map in GIS, and then we'll provide hyperlinks back into this really great Elasticsearch data store, this big data store where we can do some really detailed analytics. So linear referencing system, I'm sure a lot of people are familiar with this. We're grabbing, things like district and county and route, mile point, et cetera. And we're adding each of those fields. We've got 46 fields of information that we add to each and every record. And again, just makes it easier for the user, right? So GPS-based data is really great for GIS systems and analysis, but then for the users to really understand what's happening, we add in all the rest of this data. And that's really where the search capabilities come in, which I'm getting ready to show. So some of the search capabilities, like Waze, for example, crowdsourcing data. We had a lot of floods at one point. We had a lot of roads that were closed due to high water. So we asked Waze users to report that on their app. And this came down to being able to do word searches, because some people would report like a road closed, but then they would use the word flood or flooding or flooded inside of their description field, right? So we needed to be able to very quickly process this data and parse that out from the other information that we were getting in Waze. So again, search really helped us there. We also had some storm events where we had trees that forced road closures and down power lines and things. We were able to search through all of that information and then only extract what we needed from the tweets that had trees in them. Then we extracted that and tried to geoprocess that and locate it. And this is what some of the dashboards. This is a very quick dashboard. It took about 15 minutes. During the flooding event, we were trying to understand what was happening there. Again, we performed a quick search against the word flood. You can see that in the upper left-hand corner. But then at the bottom there, you're looking at the record level data, and you should notice it says that, road closed and things. So people were reporting road closures, but we're actually looking for flooding information from the app. And this is just a mapping of that. And again, this is all updated in real time. So every 2 minutes, records are coming in and performing this, this mapping of this data. And then snow and ice decision support. This one screen really doesn't do this dashboard a lot of justice. We typically have a million or so records of data powering this particular dashboard at any given time. This dashboard is, this takes into account all of our data. And when I say everything, all the data you saw on the previous screen is used during snow and ice, whether it's speed data, crowdsourcing data, et cetera. And then we aggregate up to the county level, and then we aggregate again to the district level. And all of that's powered by our search engine. And all this happens within a matter of seconds through Elasticsearch. So we're taking, we first take information from National Weather Service and other folks, and we process that against our linear referencing system for each half-mile segment. So we're actually producing 125,000 records of roadway data every 2 minutes, because we broke our roadway down into half-mile segments. And then we add 65 fields of data, or 65 fields of data to that single half-mile segment every 2 minutes. And then we're able to perform these very quick aggregations up to the county and the district level because of the speed of that search, speed of Elasticsearch. And then these are some of the performance measures that we started to look at. So, hey, you know, once we, now that we've got all this data, how do we judge how quickly or how well we're performing? And as you see the bar graphs in the back, those are reports of like ice on the road and things. And then this red shaded area, that's actually our AVL activity. So we can now gauge our response to events and response to public reports of ice on the road and other things. And we're getting into more detail with that. We're going to actually start breaking those down into half-mile segments as well. And then this particular map, what you're seeing is, this is not artwork, even though it's beautiful. This is actually our 125,000 roadway segments. And we're taking Doppler radar along with wind speeds, air temperature, pavement temperature, and other weather information. And then we're symbolizing that based on a severity index, which is calculated in real time. So every 2 minutes, we calculate a severity index, we attach it to that half-mile segment, and then we also preserve the rest of this data along with the inside of that half-mile segment. And then we symbolize that as the weather changes and things, so does the symbology. And again, this is great for situational awareness, but then it doesn't really tell us the performance of the event. And that's what we get to here. This is Kibana dashboard off Elasticsearch. As you can see, this is several days worth of that storm that passed through. And the more up on the mapped area, the dark blue squares, those are aggregated severity index totals. So the darker the square, the more severe the storm. But then the red outline that you're noticing in some of the squares, that's actually our response. So now we can tell very quickly where we had a disproportionate response to the event. What you should see is a darker red outline with the darker squares. And this is what you're looking at here is probably about 30 or 40 million records of aggregated data that we are bringing together for our leadership and our management. And then of course, we're looking at the severity per day and per hour of day. And then we're also looking at trend lines throughout the event and how severe it is through the event. Traveler information, this is another great example. A map is great for that overhead view and a two-dimensional view of your data. But when it comes to time-based data, we really need something a little bit different, right? So when you're looking at a map, you really don't know, is this event getting worse? Is it getting better? How does that work? Again, having all that metadata per field allows us to create these dashboards with search. And so this is in the top left. What you're seeing is our speed data. And so you've got one lane that's producing normal speeds, and another lane that's dropped off, or another direction anyway that's dropped off. And then you've got little points in there that are people reporting from incidents from waves. And then below that is another time-based graph showing when certain reports came in from the Waze app to give us some awareness of what may be happening out there, give us some context to that event. And then the right two graphs are actually based on mile points. So now we actually know what the speeds were at each mile point. And those are the max speeds, average speeds, and minimum speeds in any given time frame. So if you're looking at a larger time frame, you can see what the speeds drop to or what the average is, et cetera. So, and this is an alert, the email part that you're looking up there, that's an email alert that we send to our traffic management center after we detected an incident on our roadway. And then when they click on the hyperlink, this dashboard comes up and allows them to understand and offer more context to whether or not that event is causing further delay or if it's getting better. And then incident detection, this is just explaining this. If you want to look at this later on the download, this will explain how the speed data starts to fluctuate, where we detect that incident, and then where our traffic management center reported that incident. So our ability to be able to produce real-time GIS-based data and to be able to enter this into a search engine and perform analysis on this also allows us to detect incidents on our roadway anywhere between 30 minutes and an hour prior to what a traffic management center had been getting calls in the past. And the work zone safety review. This is another great use case for us. Again, we've got that really great interface that we start out with, and then clicking on an event or clicking on a work zone, we're then able to launch into a more detailed view of either the incident, the crash that's occurred, which is in the left-hand column, or the work zone itself, which is on the map that you can click to and then pull up a pop-up for more information. And then that more information pop-up launches into these type of dashboards. This is a 7-day view of a work zone. So now we understand the performance of that work zone. In the top graph, you see speed data that's being graphed along with incidents that happen. So you can see where the speeds have dropped, and then it starts to recover in the evening, starts to drop again, average speeds drop again during the day. And then again, we've got that north and southbound or east and westbound information where the speeds per mile point throughout that work zone. And then we also have the total crashes detected within the work zone, or total number of records of crashes. So now we know that mile point 16 is the most problematic area, and we can send engineering staff or safety folks out there to kind of assess the situation and maybe do something with signage or other engineering processes to mitigate that problem. And then we also have work zone performance. What's the overall performance of that work zone greater than 7 days? What if you want to look at 30 and 60 and 90-day performance? And again, this is where we have to aggregate this data to 1 hour blocks per day, per week, and then we start looking at the overall performance. In this particular visualization, it's a little bit confusing because it looks like we're looking at slower speeds in the evening than during the day. And that's actually true. When you go into the details of the data, you understand that we have lane closures in the evening. It's actually causing some delay. So sure enough, about 8 p.m., we're closing one of the lanes, and that causes some delays until about 4 a.m. when they release that lane. So, but the overall impact is fairly minor. You're seeing average miles per hour, 68 miles an hour versus a free flow of 70. And again, we have those crash reports per mile point where we're able to understand the most frequent areas of, oh, actually that's congestion per mile point. So that's the most frequently congested mile points within the work zone. And then on the left, we have some great heat maps of crashes. And then this is a great one. This is one of those that our assistant state highway engineer, he called me one time. He's on the way to talk to the Kentucky State Police, and he said, hey, I'm going to be at the Kentucky State Police in a few minutes, and they need to know when and where they need to patrol in northern Kentucky because we're having too many crashes out there, and we want to have police presence in that area to mitigate some of these crashes and bring awareness to our drivers that there's issues out there. And I said, okay. So this is a very quick visualization we did. We took Traffic Management Center crash reports. We graphed or we visualized that per day, per mile point, and then gave them a map and he actually gave them that report. And this tells them when and where they need to patrol or when and where they need to be seen, I guess. So in this particular instance, it's midday, and then of course the mile points at the bottom. But all this is powered by our Elasticsearch engine, which again has a lot of geospatial capabilities, but combining geospatial capabilities with search has allowed us to do a lot of really great detailed analysis that we otherwise would not have access to. And that's really all the presentation. I'm sorry for rushing. I think lost track of my time just a little bit. I think I'm right at 15 minutes right now. So I don't know if we have time for questions or not. I'm sorry for, again, kind of rushing through that, but any questions?
There's one in the comments from Jenny Harrison. She's asking, is this info or the dashboard shared with the Kentucky State Police?
At this moment, the dashboarding we do is internal to Kentucky Transportation Cabinet. The one dashboard that I talked about, again, our assistant state highway engineer made that available to the Kentucky State Police in Northern Kentucky to let them know when and where to do this. But the maps that I showed, like the snow and ice, the work zone monitoring, anything on ArcGIS online is all shared out. But then when we get into that kind of a deeper dive of our data, that's actually an on-premise system currently. That's a 5-node cluster that we have set up internally. And so we're not scaled for public use, but we hope to make that available soon after we move to Google Cloud.
Any other questions for Chris?
Oh, I'm just now seeing chat. I'm so sorry. If there's any more questions, you guys can feel free to email me. That's not a problem at all. Again, I didn't exactly know what to cover during the presentation. Really wanted to make sure that everybody just understood that, we are doing real-time GIS. We have done that in Kentucky, but really one of the key components of that is this really fast indexed search capability that we have, to where we can do these dashboards. We can aggregate like 100 million records to a map within a matter of seconds. So that allows us to do some very quick analysis on our data that otherwise we wouldn't have access to do.
Chris, do you see the question here in the chat from John? It says, when launching a new solution / case, what is the debugging process like in regards to time / input?
So time, I know GIS people are going to be offended by this, but we have 6 fields for location and 11 fields for time. That's how important that time is to us. So we put a lot of forethought into the time-based data. One of the issues with when you're talking to data scientists and other folks is they talk about spending 60% of their time massaging the data, right? Preparing the data for analysis. We don't have that option because we're processing data every 2 minutes. So we've had to put a lot of thought and time into how we process the data. And then after the data is processed in real time, all the data matches up together. So we perform QA/QC and things on the data much further back into the pipeline. And once we have it running, we just leave it running. And then all of our data talks to each other through those, through that field level metadata that we make available, that district, county route, mile point, et cetera, all that LRS stuff. So I don't know if that exactly addresses the question you had or not. If not, go ahead and email me and we can go into more detail on that.
Great. Okay, last call for questions for Chris. Either raise your hand or drop it in. Oh, we have one from Bert. Okay, how often does Kentucky update its LRS base, and how does your big data approach respond to those changes?
Yeah, LRS in Kentucky is updated weekly. And so currently our big data is a little bit behind. We do a freeze on November the 1st, which is considered the beginning of our snow and ice season. And then we process all of our data from November the 1st until April the 15th using that same LRS. However, we've just recently started with our photolog vans reprocessing on a weekly basis. So now what happens, and we haven't applied this to our use case yet, this is just for photolog as kind of a pilot project. What happens is we do that batch process. We update LRS weekly on Sundays. So on Sunday evening, kind of Monday morning, what happens is all the new data that's brought in starts to be processed based on the new LRS. And then they go back and batch process the previous, the historic data. And we're getting ready to start doing that with our real-time data as well. So even though we've got 7 billion records per year of data, that's the process that's going to take place there as well. So when that LRS is updated, we'll start processing the data based on that new LRS. And then just a few minutes after that, we'll kick off a process to reprocess all historic data. But we're doing, if you put that in context though, we can process 350 million like wage records in 11 minutes. So you're taking 359 million or 350 million records and processing that against 125,000 roadway segments in 11 minutes. So, we can, and that's just one data feed. So we've got, 16 different data feeds. So it won't take any more than an hour or so to completely reprocess all of our data against an updated LRS every week. So that's the plan.
Great. Okay, Chris, thank you so much for that. That was great.